Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Coach Mark. So here we are about 2 weeks out from the initial launch of our tactics training app. So what I wanted to do in this video is to talk about where we were, where we are, where we're going. I wanted to give you guys a quick update on some things that I've already changed in the code based on things that I already had on my to-do list, some really good suggestions and requests from you guys, and talk about my immediate plans and things I'm going to be working on in the immediate future, as well as kind of a long-term vision of the app and where we're going to go. So let's get into it.
Here we go.
Okay, so the overall response and feedback on the app has been overwhelmingly positive. That's awesome. Thank you guys so much for the comments and the remarks. Some of you guys have said you've already been using it and you're seeing improvement in your game. That's what the whole point of the app. That's great. But I've also received a healthy amount of constructive criticism. I'm here for it. I need it, right? I want to hear about the things that you like, you don't like, improvements, suggestions. And I want to be crystal clear on this point, guys. This is not my app. This is your app. I built this for you guys. I'm here for you. My work is a service for you. So I want to tailor make and customize this to satisfy as many people as I can. Obviously, you can't, make everybody happy, but I'll try to do my best. And so keep that in mind. I welcome the suggestions, and that's one of the things I'll talk about. Some of the things I've already changed have been based on some really good recommendations from you guys. Okay, so first thing right out of the gate, the big elephant in the room, the name change. So if you guys haven't noticed, I have decided, I put a little a post on the YouTube channel, but I have decided to change the name. You're like, you just released this. Why are you changing the name? I know. It wasn't a 10-minute decision. I put a lot of thought into this, hours and hours thinking about this. But for right now, it's a tactics training app, right? But I have a long-term vision of making this kind of like a one-stop shop for all your chess needs. And so, my long-term vision is for it to be more than just a tactics training app. If you look at the modules that we currently have, 3 of our 5 core training modules are part of the 6 tactics recognition conditions we always talk about, the checks, coordinated squares, unprotected pieces modules. And you'll notice down here I have coming soon, I may have a module for condition number 1, location of pieces, pins, skewers, forks, all that stuff. Condition number 4, restricted pieces. But I want this to be more than just a tactics recognition training app. And I've talked about maybe even incorporating like an in-game module, middle game strategy module. We talk about the 10 middle game strategies on the channel, possibly like a module for kids or beginners, the basics, teaching somebody who's never learned how to play chess. Another idea that I like is potentially working in like an opening theory, training on opening lines. If you guys remember on the YouTube channel, I did a mini series on the England Gambit. Part 1 was me teaching you how to refute it and going through all of the theory and the lines. But then the second video was just me actually going through the lines on my chess position trainer software program, and where you just pause the video and just see if you can figure out the move. But that would be much better if you had that in the form of an app, right? You could just select whatever opening you want and just start training on the lines. So that's something I want to incorporate. So for example, here's the software that I use. You'll notice over here in my repertoire, I'd have tens of thousands of lines that I put into this database over the years based on all kinds of resources, my personal experience, hours and hours of nonstop engine analysis. I put these lines in one by hand. And so this will be really cool to incorporate into the app. So let's say we wanted to train on this very specific England Gambit Knight B4 line. Well, I've got some coding experience. It would not be that hard for me to create something very similar to this and work it into the app where you could press start and the computer would run through the theoretical line. It kind of refresh your memory. Oh yeah, that's how this line is supposed to go. And then you just train on it. You try to mimic and see if you can remember all of the lines in that specific variation. So now it's our turn. So we're going to make the moves manually. We're going to go D4, take, bring the bishop out, bring the knight out, bring the bishop back, knight C3, knight, we got to guard C2. Let's hit the queen. Let's hit the queen again. We're going to hit the knight. And then we take. Let's hit the queen again. And then we're going to play knight D5. Boom. And that's the end of the line. I've got my own comments in here, just like I have in the tactics recognition. But that's something that I think would be really cool for, something that long-term that I would love to work into the app. Okay, so because I have all these things I want to do in the future, I thought, you know what, I'm probably going to have to change the name at some point. I might as well go ahead and do that now. A little bit shorter, it's a little bit easier to remember. So I've decided that as of right now, I've decided to change the name from Real Tactics In-Game Trainer to Chess Pro Trainer.
That'll do, donkey. That'll do.
Yes, sir. So hopefully that will be a lot easier to remember. And so I've already made that change in the code. So here's what's going to happen right now. So if you go to the old website, this is what you're going to see. We have a new message. We've moved your profile, everything, guys, with your username, email, password. If you upgraded to Pro, points, none of that stuff has changed. Everything associated with your profile is saved offsite in a database anyway. So nothing that I ever do to the code of the app will ever change or affect that. So if you use a desktop or laptop to get here, you will simply click on this Chess Pro Trainer button here, and it will take us to the new website, chessprotrainer.com. Well, we're right back to where we were, and you'll notice that I've already changed this in the name. Okay, so if you're accessing the app through the icon that you saved to the home screen the first time, unfortunately, I'm sorry, we're going to have to redo this. We're going to delete the app and do it all over again. It's going to take you 20 seconds. Yes, my wife is beautiful. So what we're going to do is we're going to delete this app or the bookmark. We're going to delete it. All right, and now we're going to go back to the internet, Safari, Chrome, whatever internet browser you use. We're going to go to chessprotrainer.com. All right, that takes us to this web page, but this is the web app, right? We got all this extra stuff at the top and the bottom. We don't want that. We're going to save it again to our home screen, and we're going to, for the modern iPhones and Android, you're going to look for these three dots. The older iPhones, you have the little square with the arrow going through it. We're going to simply look for the share button. So find the share button, and then we're going to add to home screen. So I'm going to swipe up. There we go, right there. Add to home screen. Name it whatever you want. And now the app is back on our home screen. And now when we open it, it will behave like a normal native app. It takes up the full screen, and we are good to go. So that's the reason for making the big name change. It just makes more sense long term.
Oh, I'm very, very sorry you were put through this.
Okay, let me continue hitting the list of things I've already updated and changed in the app since the launch. The next big one was the issue of users not being able to make manual moves in the Tactics and Genius modules, and that's because the code only allowed the drag technique where you click a piece and drag it to the destination square. I have since changed that, so now both methods will work. Okay, so for example, we're looking at this Tactics position here. Don't see any tactic there, so click no tactic there. And then, okay, so we have a tactic here. This is an unprotected piece. That's a 1 versus 1. That's an unprotected piece. We'll have rook e3. So originally, before, we only used the drag and drop technique. So I'll show you both. So now we'll say, yes, there is a tactic here. So we can drag this now. I guess for me, I've always played a lot of bullet and blitz. So I guess I always drag just because it's impossible to play blitz if you use the tap and then touch the destination square. So we can use the drag and drop. But now you can also use the tap. So I'll just tap the rook and then tap the destination square. And so now both methods will work. So that is now fixed. Okay, so I did have a bug with the 2-puzzle limit the first week the app came out, fixed that. But I did want to let the free users know that don't navigate away from the page or hit the refresh button because it's going to use up one of your slots. So for example, I just made a dummy account here. And so let's say we're on the checks module and we click on easy. So this is puzzle number 1. So that's your first slot. So notice if I click the refresh button and it reloads, this is now my second puzzle. So if I click refresh again, it actually won't let me do any more, right? Because that was our 2 slots. It's the same thing like if I go to coordinated squares, let's say we do our first puzzle, it's black to play. We've got coordination there and there. Anywhere else, we've got coordination there, coordination there. I think that's it. So that's our first puzzle. And so if we go to the next one and then we navigate away, let's say we go to our stats page and then we come back and try to go back and use our second puzzle on coordinated squares, it won't let us do it. So make sure you're aware of that. And I'll be working on something similar to this for the Tactics and Genius modules very soon. Okay, so this next one was a fantastic idea by one of our own users, so I decided to go ahead and implement it. Originally, the code was set up for 24 hours, so if you did all your puzzles at, say, 5 o'clock and it took you 30 minutes, it would keep pushing it further and further back every day. But with 23-hour rolling windows, so you come home at 5 o'clock p.m., you knock out your 10 puzzles, as long as you do them within an hour, then you can keep doing it the same time every day at 5 o'clock. So if you decide to do that. Okay, for the next 2 items, I've given additional options for page backgrounds for free and pro users. For the free users, you guys saw this immediately. You got this new wooden background as well as a new green chessboard if you so choose. So for free users, the background, you have none, dark theme, light theme, and you now have this wooden background. The chessboards, you still have the classic Lee chess as well as this kind of green chess.com option. For the pro users, I've given you guys a few extra page backgrounds. You can select kind of the getting away from the digital artwork, kind of like a artificial turf, kind of like a poker table type background with your primary colors here, secondary colors. If you guys prefer any of these, and I threw the pink in there. So a few more options for everybody. I've also cleaned up these drop down menus so they're not squished together, a little bit easier to read. Okay, the next item, this is probably the number one form of criticism that I received on the app is I think a lot of people thought that maybe I was a little bit too heavy on the digital artwork, had too many pictures, which is fine. So you probably noticed that I removed about probably 50% of the digital artwork just to kind of maybe make things look a little bit cleaner. So did that. Okay, next item. You guys have already seen this, so I won't spend too much time on it, but I added this kind of welcome pop-up screen before anybody ever enters there or signs up for a new account because somebody made a good point that if somebody gets to this app and they don't know anything about it, then they're being asked to submit an email and sign up without knowing what this app is about. So I said, you know what, that's a good point. Let me just go ahead and give a brief introduction about what this thing does, what the different training modules are, so people can kind of know what they're getting into before giving out their email address. Okay, next on the list, and I'm not 100% done with this, but the tablet version, if anybody tried to use this with their iPad or any kind of other tablet, there were some kind of bugs with the formatting. So I've been working pretty hard on that. I should be finished with that later this week. Next on the list is if you guys will notice in the navigation menu, either on the desktop or on the mobile, I no longer have a link to what I was calling the home page. The home was kind of like your login page. But since we have this log out link over here, there's really no reason to have another link to go back to a spot where you have to sign in. So you'll notice I've removed that. So really this training menu item up here, the training link, you should really consider as your home page because that takes us back to all the training modules. So just wanted you guys to know that that link is no longer there. Okay, next item on the list was the welcome screen. Originally, I had like a 4-second delay before the interlink popped up. Now I've dropped it down to like a second delay. I also have the waves sound crashing in the background. This is going to be one of the things that I'm probably going to start asking for feedback. And I didn't realize this, but on a YouTube channel, you can actually poll the audience or poll the subscribers. So I'll be probably asking some questions in the near future, just getting some feedback from you guys. Do you like this? Do you want me to do away with the sound of the waves or whatever? So keep that in mind as you see those polling questions pop up on the channel. Okay, last item on the list of things that I have already changed. This is actually a very good find. Somebody noticed that in a couple of places here on the settings page, the bottom left-hand corner square was actually a light square. I think it was also in the frequently asked questions, but that was actually a good find. So I have fixed that bug. All right, so now let's talk about some things that I have planned for the immediate future. All right. So in the near term, guys, probably 70-80% of my time is going to be focused on just adding more puzzles to the database. Unfortunately, I have not been able to add one single puzzle since this went live a couple of weeks ago. I'm a little disappointed in that, but there's just too many things that that were higher priority that I needed to fix. But thankfully, I think all of the coding, the bugs, I think we're done once we get past this. We're past the name change thing. So there shouldn't be any more interruptions in service or that kind of thing. So I'm very, very pleased with that. I'm going to work on improving the graphics. I know a couple of people as another form of constructive criticism was to try to make things a little bit more modern. Certainly, I'll now have time to slow down and work on some of those things, improving like the buttons and that kind of thing. I also want to add a report issue option to the menu. So instead of you having to email me directly, you can just click on the form and you can tell me I need to know the position number if you think there are mistakes in the puzzles. We've already had a handful of mistakes that were identified from you guys, so that's awesome. Thank you for that. Um, so a way to report anything that you're having, and make sure you stick around because I'm gonna have a troubleshooting section at the end of this video for those of you who are still having issues with layouts and that kind of thing. I'll let you know what to look for if you're still having issues. Um, I want to get this out to the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store, but I wanted to use this time to get information from you guys, iron out the bugs and the kinks before I go live on the actual app stores. Still going to clean up the tablet. Another one is the checks and the coordinated squares modules. When you get something wrong, it's not necessarily that easy to figure out where your mistake was. So I'm going to work on adjusting that. Right now, if you click on a square that's not a check or it's not a coordinated square, it'll turn gray and give you that little green question mark. But if you miss something that was there, it's a little bit tough to tell. So I think I'm gonna work on maybe having a different color. Like if you missed that B5 was a coordinated square, instead of it highlighting that in the answer, you're like, whoa, which one did I miss? Maybe it turns a different color. So if you click one that's not correct, it'll turn gray. And if you missed one, maybe it turns like yellowish orange or whatever. That way it's a little bit easier to figure out where you missed in those modules. The unprotected pieces, of course, you have your chart. So that's pretty easy to tell there. Repeated puzzles, I know that sometimes it's supposed to be set up to randomly feed you puzzles from the database and never repeat one, but I'm not sure that's working exactly 100% correct. So I'm gonna dig a little bit deeper into that so that you're not seeing the same puzzle like within, you know, 10 puzzles, you see the same one twice. Video for directions, and I'm sorry, I realized that after I made the initial launch video, it was like 2 hours, like, "Oh my gosh, nobody's gonna watch this." So I'm gonna make a concerted effort to take each module and break it down, no fluff, just straight to the point. Here's what we're trying to do in this module, and I'll put that on YouTube, and I'll also put links in the app for people that are still not sure. Like, I don't understand this whole unprotected pieces. They can click on a link in the app, it takes them right to YouTube, and there's like a 5 minute, 3 minute short little video that gets right to the point, tells you exactly what to do. Um, Arrow keys on the keyboard. So instead of you having to click the actual arrow button in the app, if you're on the desktop, you can just press the arrows on the keyboard to move back and forth. That was a good suggestion. I'll try to work on that. More options to draw arrows when the line is over with, when the module you finish with the position or whatever, you can go back and draw some arrows out of that. Longer term plans, already mentioned, adding more modules in game, middle game, opening theory modules. And please don't bombard me with emails asking, when are you going to do this? Those additional modules, those are way down the line, months down the line. So, first thing I got to do is get this database chock full of puzzles. Originally, I wanted to have over 2,000 puzzles before I even went live. Unfortunately, I put a lot of pressure on myself to get this out, so we only have about over 1,000 puzzles. So I want to hurry up and get to 2,000, 3,000 puzzles. And like I said in the initial release video, I want to have tens of thousands of puzzles in the database, so you guys never run out of these things. Speed runs. I mentioned some things in the frequently asked questions, some other things, ideas that I have. You guys may not have read that. Speed runs on these modules, training battles. Match up with somebody across the planet. See, take 5 minutes. Who can do the most? Who can do the most checks modules? Correctly. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Alternate acceptable moves. So, like, if you pick a move that's like really, really close to the best move, but it's not quite right, I want to add in an alternative acceptable move so you're not dinged for points. If you come up with a move that's almost as good as the best move, but not quite. Engine analysis, incorporating that into the module. So if you get done with a tactics recognition line, you want to go back. It's like, wait a minute, what about this alternate line? Maybe have some engine analysis to go back and explore different variations. Tournaments would be really cool, and creating your own leagues with family and friends. Those are just so many ideas that I have for this, guys. The sky's the limit, and so, like I said, I want to hear back from you guys, even the free users. You have a voice too. I want to know what you guys like and what you'd like to see. So please keep those suggestions coming, especially as soon as I get that report issue. It'll be kind of like a feedback form, like a wish list. What would you like to see? What would you like to see changed in this puzzle? Maybe I saw this or whatever. So, okay, so that's kind of what I'm working on. And so I'll finish up this video with a list of troubleshooting things for you guys that may still have issues. Okay, guys, so here is troubleshooting issue number one. If you have stuff that is laying over top, overlapping something else, like on this phone, I don't know if you can see, like, you can see the little dynamic island is like laying over the top of the title, and like these arrow buttons down here are like overlapping the white line. Sometimes I've had a couple of users tell me the tactics recognition conditions are like outside the box and the text is like overlapping each other. If you find any of those formatting bugs, I can tell you with 99% certainty the reason why that's happening is because you have on page zoom. Now, let me be very, very specific about this because there's a difference between increasing the font on your phone and doing a page zoom within the browser app. So, for example, if I click on, if I go to, this is like an old iPhone X, but if I go to display and brightness, And notice I go down here to, it says display zoom. If I click on that, if I change that to the larger text, that's not going to change anything. I can change this to the larger text and my app will look just fine. So it's not that, it's not the text. It is page zoom. So if I go back to my settings, if I go down here and find Safari, or maybe you're using Chrome or whatever browser you're using. So if for iPhones, if I click on Safari and then scroll down here to where it says page zoom, I think for Android it might be display zoom, but for iPhone it's page zoom. So when you see these percentages, right, it should be at 100%. If you choose like 125% or 115%, then you're zooming in on the page, and you're at risk for causing things within the app to collapse and for stuff to start to overlap. So make sure your page zoom is at 100%. Okay, so the second troubleshooting thing I'll say, I've already talked about this in this video, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. But again, if you've got stuff overlapping and condensing in the app, it could be because you're still trying to run it from a web app. If you see all this white space at the top and the bottom, even on Android or on the iPhone, then you're still trying to run it from a web app, and you need to save this as an icon to your home screen. So this is where you go back and watch it at the beginning of the video again. You got to find this little square button with an arrow if you're an iPhone user, or simply find the share button. And once you click on share, you're going to find add to home screen, and you're going to add this app to your home screen and run it as an icon like you normally would from the app that you would download from one of the app stores. Okay, guys, I think that's it for this video. Hopefully that sheds some light on some things you may still have some questions about. I do plan to do like a weekly video of me going through the modules and taking maybe a few puzzles from each and kind of telling you, here's what I'm thinking, here's how I'd recommend that you tackle and approach each of these modules, so you can set yourself up to maximize your learning on this thing. So other than that, I'm just going to be grinding away on the things I mentioned, put more puzzles in the database, and that's it for now, guys. Talk to you soon.